What's up, guys? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for this beautiful Witta Wednesday on January 24th. I'm Tim Geddes, joined by Gary Witta once again.
It's me.
Thank you. It's weird if it's just one person clapping. Thank you for joining me once again on this illustrious show.
Tim Geddes.
How you feeling?
The Gettysburg.
Yeah, so they call it the Rogue One.
Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, we need to work on the nicknames. We gotta figure all this out. This is Kind of Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We get together and talk about all the going-ons in video game news. You can watch it live on Twitch, or you can watch it at your leisure on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames or podcast services around the globe. It really means a lot to us if you would like and subscribe to all those podcasts and to all of our podcasts, including Marvel's MCU, Kind of Funny's Marvel Cinematic Universe in review. You can go on iTunes or podcast services and type in Kind of Funny reviews to find that. The first 4 episodes are up, from Iron Man to Incredible Hulk to Iron Man 2 to Thor, that just went up yesterday. You can join along. We're going to be watching one Marvel movie a week leading into Infinity War, and you can kind of join us and rank them and review them as we do, and it's a good time for everybody. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies and eHarmony, but we will get to that later, because right now we got to begin with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We got 5 stories today, Gary.
A baker's dozen.
All right. I was just saying, but before the show, I've been on for some slow news days recently, so it's nice to have a bumper.
It's girthy today.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff
Very
going
girthy.
on. So this is actually a big block of text that I'm about to read to you guys. Jason Schreier dropping them bombs, as he often does over on Kotaku. This will be today's required reading. There's a lot more than I'm going to tell you here. You can go to Kotaku, look up Jason Schreier on Twitter, and find it to read the whole thing yourself, because, as always, he is a fantastic journalist. The headline reads, Bioware doubles down on Anthem as pressure mounts. Over the past few months, Bioware has essentially transformed into a single game studio as it harnesses its teams to work on the ambitious multiplayer action game Anthem, sources say. There's still small teams maintaining Star Wars: The Old Republic and piecing together the next Dragon Age, which was recently rebooted, but the bulk of Bioware staff in both Edmonton and Austin are now on Anthem. And there's a sense among Bioware employees that the company's future is inextricably tied to this game. Anthem, which was announced at E3 2017, is now scheduled for release in early 2019, according to 3 people familiar with the project. The fall 2018 window mentioned during the E3 announcement was never realistic, one source said. Exact dates remain in flux, and Anthem's developers must also plan for a beta release, an EA Access launch, and an ongoing schedule of patches and updates. But it appears unlikely to developers that publisher EA will allow Bioware to delay the game any further than March 2019, when the company's 2019 fiscal year comes to an end. EA, like most publicly traded companies, uses the fiscal calendar as a basis for all of its decisions, as those dates determine how investors will behave. Over the last year, as Anthem's production ramped up and Bioware began putting more and more of its staff on the project, things appear to have improved. When I asked one source recently whether Anthem's struggles fell more into the category of "this game is screwed" or "game development is really hard," the source said that over time it had veered from the former into the latter. Other people close to Bioware have said similar things, although it's not hard to find developers willing to complain about Frostbite, the game engine initially designed for EA's Battlefield games, which has impeded many of Bioware's projects over the past decade. And then there's the toxicity problem, as video game pundits seize any opportunity to stoke anger at big publishers. That's us, Gary. 2 people who have worked on Anthem both expressed anxiety to me about the ways some big YouTubers have spread misinformation. That's not us, the big YouTubers. And inflammatory rhetoric about EA, saying that it has a demoralizing effect on those people on the ground level. To people who work for EA, the publisher isn't just a cold corporate master. It's a complicated machine that, yes, is concerned first and foremost with generating revenue for investors, but also supports thousands of people in many tangible and intangible ways. People close to Bioware, along with many other developers I've talked to in recent months, worry that commentary from some of YouTube's loudest voices has eliminated nuance and made companies like EA seem like Disney villains. If you're a Bioware fan, there are certainly reasons to be hopeful. Anthem staff have shown a willingness to be transparent and engage with fans, and Bioware knows the pressure is on. What do you take from this?
Well, it does seem like this is it's going to be a big deal for Bioware, right? So all eggs in one basket, kind of all or nothing. If this game were to be a spectacular failure, obviously the repercussions of that would be very serious indeed.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The thing about the YouTubers, I think, is find interesting. It must be terrible. I mean, game development is hard. All kinds of creative development is hard. I can't tell you the number of times I've sat in front of a screenplay in progress, or watching a movie being made, or television, or a video game, and it's hard. It's like it's desperately just mind-numbingly hard sometimes to create and make something good, and there's so much anxiety. Is this going to be good? Is it going to be good enough? Like, everyone's watching. Like when I was working on Rogue One, it was constant just stress and fear, and like, oh my God, I hope people like this. The whole world's going to see it. Please let it be good. We can't screw this up. And so I totally empathize with all of the emotions that are happening at Bioware and other developers that are working on big games. And the whole thing about the YouTubers, I mean, it does create this kind of very destructive, I think, an unhelpful feedback loop. Where imagine you're working on the game. I'm going to take my lunch, just check out one of my favorite YouTuber. Is Anthem screwed? Everything is terrible with Anthem. Like, this is the game that you're now got to go back to work that lunchtime after lunch and continue with it. And you're hearing that this is what's in the air supply. It's toxic, and I'm not at all surprised if a lot of what's being talked about on YouTube is misinformed, or blown out of proportion, or is just straight up fabricated. And it's we do live in a 24/7 kind of media critic culture feedback loop now, where this is the stuff that you have to deal with, even as not after the game is maybe, even as you're making the game. Constant rumors and stuff that, because it's not. There's no clicks in saying everything seems fine, I'm looking forward to this game. There's many more clicks in this is fucked. It's going. Sources tell me that this is terrible. I'm not saying that's what Jason Schreier is doing. He's a legit guy, but a lot of the YouTube commentators that he's talking about, I think, are just stirring the pot.
Yep.
For clicks, often without foundation, and again, it does become kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anthem is screwed, and that gets in the developer's head. They have to go back and create some art assets or something that day, but they've still got that kind of ringing in their head. It's not helpful. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of faith in Bioware. I think they're very, very aware of how much is at stake here. There's incredibly talented people there. I think they definitely want to avoid another, even though this feels like it's a Destiny-esque game, they clearly want to avoid the situation that happened with Destiny, where, if you remember, the first one was super, super hyped, big developer coming off of a mega hit franchise onto something new. And when Destiny came out, it was kind of poorly received, right? Yeah. And it took a long time for them to, through various expansions and fixes, to get it to a point where the audience was like, okay, all right, now it's good. But you want to be good right out of the gate. You only get one chance to make a first impression. Especially now, in a world that's post-Destiny, post-Division, where these games are now commonplace. Looking at the last year or so, it's been rough for EA, with the YouTubers and them having these cases. As hard as it is for the people working on the game, there's a lot of the shit stirring and drama caused by the YouTubers is caused from stuff that happened at EA. When you look at the loot box situation with Star Wars Battlefront 2, this isn't EA, but yeah, just Destiny in general with its loot box problems and the trophy issues and all of that that they were having over at Activision. And Anthem is a game similar to Destiny, going all the way back to Mass Effect Andromeda, and how big of a letdown that was to so many fans when Bioware before that was looked at as this they can do no wrong. Yeah, there was certainly some controversy surrounding the ending of Mass Effect 3, if you remember. Yeah. But Mass Effect Andromeda, I think, was the first one that felt like a really big stumble from Bioware. Up to that point, all the Mass Effect and Dragon's Age games have been really, really solid, and some are Stone Cold classics. So they were a top tier developer. And then maybe stumbled a little bit, and now coming into this is a difficult environment right now to be making a game like this. I understand why people want to be making games like this, because it seems there's a lot of money in games as a service and loot box, but there's also a tremendous amount of stigma, not just loot boxes, but the whole genre. Destiny 2 is seems to be doing okay, but I don't think it's, in terms of its footprint and its impression out there with gamers, it's not where they wanted it to be, right? There's still fighting a constant battle to try and make people happy with the game. To please as many people as possible. And it's tricky to do. So the opportunity and the challenge and the potential pitfalls for BioWare are to come into this genre in which have been a lot of games that have been viewed as kind of dissatisfying or missed the mark, or have kind of had their hand out for money too much with loot box systems and stuff like that. If they can come in and do, this is how you do a game like that. This is how you do games as a service. This is how you do that kind of constant carrot and stick loot grind, and this is how you do maybe even some element of real world currency. But here's how you actually make it work. You can do this, and we're going to show you how. If they do that, they will have succeeded where others have failed, and that would be an incredible achievement. But until they prove that they can do that, I feel like the deck is a little bit stacked against them, because it's not a well-liked genre right now. I mean, when you ask people like this kind of game, there's a lot of negative sentiment surrounding this kind of game. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so there is, but I think we need to look a little deeper than that, because I feel like a lot of the commentary when people talk about these YouTubers, they're talking about people that aren't actually in the ecosystems, that aren't actually playing the games, and then there is the other side of it, that there is the hardcore of hardcore, like the Fran Mirabellas playing Destiny, and even like Andrew Renee, who are so into the games that it does affect them, and they are the ones raising the forks and stuff and being like, guys, like, fix these problems. We have these problems, but there is a large amount of people that are enjoying the content being given to them, that enjoy the amount of new content week after week in Destiny, and are paying the money and enjoying the grind that they're given, right? I'm one of those people that's totally outside. These games don't interest me, so all I'm doing is giving my opinion on the things that I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. These loot boxes sound bad, and this sounds wrong, whatever. Seeing Anthem at E3 last year for the first time, it was the first time a game of this type made me go, I want to play that. That looks fun. That looks awesome. Seeing him fly around the Iron Man suit, I'm like, this looks really cool. And the game seems awesome enough to grab me, despite me not liking the genre, right? So if they were to nail it, that would be huge. And I feel like they do, like you said, they have to nail it. Coming in now 2019, they're not going to be first. They're not even going to be second. At that point, they probably won't even be third coming into this game. And reading between the lines of a lot of what people are saying here, I think the good news is, at least all the people Jason is talking to, they're saying that, hey, there was problems, we're fixing it, and things seem to be better, and we're happy working on this game. And the fact that they're disgruntled and hurt by the YouTubers talking shit, that's good, because they believe in it. That shows that they were like, no, you guys are wrong. Like, because if they agreed with the YouTubers, they'd be like, hey,
yeah, I can see that as well. They can actually, you're going to drive you to go, I'll show you motherfuckers. Like, this game's actually going to kick ass.
But the bad news is the fiscal year news. It's just like, at the end of the day, whether or not the game's ready, whether or not the path they're going down, they feel good about it. They don't get it done by March 2019, the game will be released, and it'll be what it is at that point.
While I think it's the right thing to do to delay it and take it out of 2018, I do worry that they're still being presented with this kind of like hard deadline, like, ready or not, you're shipping this. If that's the case, if that's kind of the ultimatum from EA, ready or not, you're shipping this game on this date. I wish you could somehow convince them to not, think so much about fiscal years. And like, honestly, you'll make more money in the long run if this game ships in its best possible state than if it pisses off a bunch of people and you have to hope to get them back a year from now with the first expansion or something. Oh, now it's okay. This is what the game should have been at launch. So let it be that at launch.
Yeah.
And again, you can point to Destiny 1 and 2. Probably the closest comp for what this game is going to be, and say, look, in both cases, these games did not make a brilliant impression out of the gate, and it took a long time for them to kind of win players back around, and they're still in that process because they started, 20 yards back. Like, you want to be able to put your best foot forward and present the best version of the game at launch, because otherwise the narrative is all teed up for this to be, here we go again, here's another loot box carrot and stick games as a service game that is kind of half baked at launch. I think the media is so ready to kind of pounce on that narrative that it really behooves EA and Bioware to present something that says, no, but you see, you can do it right. Yeah. So that's the big opportunity. So look, where others have stumbled, we've succeeded. But you really need to create the environment for that to happen. And I would suggest that one of the pillars of that is ship it when it's ready, not when some bean counter has said, well, the fiscal year ends on this date, and you've got to ship it by this date. Yeah. But that ultimately ends up being, there will be no argument. It will ship on that date.
Mm-hmm. Other quotes in this article that I didn't include in this, but they're going all in on this game. And I think that does present a very scary predicament of it's double or nothing, I feel, for Bioware at this point, especially with EA kind of rolling the dice on it, where if they do succeed, like you're saying, that's going to be such a huge win for EA, not only in terms of them making money, but in terms of the consumer kind of perception of EA and the gamer's perception of EA, of being like, all right, you made the mistakes with Battlefront 2 and Mass Effect and, whatever. But Anthem is now this new awesome thing. If they fail, BioWare will have had the total fall from grace. It will be written off,
Yes, and that whole like all the chips in the middle on on the turn of the next card, that is a very nerve-wracking proposition. But as a gamer, I would say that I am highly, as much as this is the kind of the day-to-day of the news cycle of like talking about all this kind of drama. At the end of the day, as a player of games, I am highly motivated to want this game to be good, and I do think the scene is set for it. I think that the Destinies and the other games of a service that games are out there, if anything, have been a really great roadmap in being able to learn from the mistakes of others. And I'm sure there have been very detailed meetings and conversations at Bioware about, well, look, here's what we can learn from what Destiny and Destiny 2 and other games like it did right and wrong, and to build on that foundation. So I feel like the scene is set for them to get this right. And again, at the end of the day, it's still Bioware. Yeah, they had one stumble with Andromeda, but man, some of my all-time favorite game experiences, memories, going all the way back to like Knights of the Old Republic, those guys know what they're doing. So I think let's have some faith, let's trust in them, and hope it works out. And the fact that the game may have gone through difficult times, every game every movie, every big creative endeavor goes through those. You always have those existential crises, like, oh my god, is this going to be any good? If you're not having that kind of freak out and asking those questions, your game won't be any good. Like, you have to kind of go through that traumatic, all those different, that emotional roller coaster, and because that's what compels you to do. That fear of failure is often what compels you to do your best work. If you get complacent, that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking at this with the March 2019 date looming, I truly believe that if this game is in any position to be put out, whether or not it's fully complete, but if it is complete enough to be put out, EA will put it out by then. Because when you really look at EA's lineup this year in particular, this fiscal year, this isn't their best foot forward year from what we're expecting. They don't have the Star Wars game. This is a Battlefield game, not a Battlefront year. And all the rumors show that it's going to be a Bad Company game, which doesn't have the same kind of kick factor as Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the other Star Wars games, nowhere in sight. And granted, we'll see what E3 brings us, but I doubt we're going to hear about Respawn's game. I think that's pretty far out there.
No, and this is the only thing that worries me is that date, because it's not that ship date. That 2019 first quarter date is nothing. There's no creative reasoning behind that, right? It's an economic date. It's a business imperative that has been imposed on them. If you said to the guys running Anthem right now, ideally, when would you ship this game? In terms of like, how much time do you need to do the best creative work possible and ship the version of the game that you can say, yeah, this is what we wanted to ship? They would come up with quite a different date.
Yeah.
But instead, they are going to have to work backwards. I find this something that's bizarre to me always in filmmaking. That often the first decision that's made is the date that the movie is going to come out. So you're behind the eight ball from the beginning. You're working to a hard date from the beginning. It's not like a lot of the best movies get made kind of under the radar and they're released. You have a finished movie and then you find the best date for it to come out, as opposed to with a lot of the big franchise films, the very first thing they need to do is lock down the date on the calendar so that they know they have that date. Other movies won't go near it. There's a lot of competition for release dates, but locking that in early, you're racing towards a brick wall before you even start to write the script, and it's often not the best way to make a big movie or a big game like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Best of luck to him.
Distilling all that down at the end of the day, what do you think? Hit or miss, Anthem?
My gut tells me miss. I want it to be good. Yeah, I want it to be good, but just with all of this going into it, and it's with everything we've seen in the last couple of years with EA, people still haven't figured out loot boxes, and I think that we're making steps towards it. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we'll be there by March 2019.
Well, I do. I mean, I think the good news is that through the Star Wars experience that we had over the holidays, I think EA hopefully has had a real kind of rude awakening in terms of their approach to these, and at least I feel like that's actually been good for this game in the sense that whatever kind of toxic or cynical business strategy that may have been driving EA's approach to loot boxes prior to Battlefront 2 is now hopefully taken off and will not. The EA will hopefully have a different or a more open-minded approach to how that might be handled in Anthem, because they got burned so badly.
Yeah.
So the guys at Bioware are probably breathing a sigh of relief about that. You can say, look, do you want another Battlefront 2? Then don't make us put this shit in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Next story. This comes from IGN. Uncharted director and Dead Space producer joined the Avengers project game. Former Uncharted director Sean Eskeg and Dead Space producers Stephen Barry have joined the Avengers project game developed by Crystal Dynamics. Eskeg joins the team as creative director, while Barry will serve as director of production. Eskeg is the creative director and writer of Uncharted: The Lost Legacy and worked on Last of Us as the director of photography and animation supervisor. He was also an animator at ILM. He says, quote, "I'm thrilled to join Crystal as creative director and be aligned with the team as passionate about telling great character-based stories as I am," Eskeg said. Barry held several positions at Electronic Arts, with the latest role at the company being the director of product development at Visceral Games. Quote, "Crystal's been around almost as long as I've been in the business. The immediate chemistry and camaraderie has been exactly what I'd hoped for." Square Enix announced the game, which is known as the Avengers Project which is now known as the Avengers Project, early last year. It's being made by Crystal Dynamics in collaboration with Deus Ex developer Eidos Montreal. I'm happy we're starting to hear a bit more about this game, not too much, but I do think this is really good news because those are awesome guys that worked on awesome project. Uncharted: Lost Legacy was one of my favorite games of last year because of its direction, because of its creative direction, because of the writing, and him talking about the character-based stories. That's exactly what I feel the Avengers needs to be.
Do we know much about what kind of game it is?
No, it's going to be an action game. There's been talk about it having a heavy online influence, which is a little worrisome when you start thinking about what that could mean. But yeah, we don't know too much. There was just that one trailer that just kind of showed all the different weapons and wreckage.
Well, I mean, you can't argue with the credentials of these guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like
Dead
the A
Space.
team players of game development, and so I guess so. Sean Eskeg sounds like his last thing was at Visceral, which got closed down when they closed down Amy's Star Wars game. So he's one of the refugees that got left go when they shut down Visceral, and it seems like he's landed in a good place.
And that sounds great. You know, again, story-based games like this is there's a lot of really good going into this, especially when you look at who's making it, with Crystal Dynamics being the heading it up with Eidos Montreal. The Deus Ex games are some of Nick's favorite games. They're great single-player games. And you look at Crystal Dynamics, the last couple Tomb Raider games with Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Really good.
They're excellent. And I'm imagining what a Avengers game could be in that style, or whatever would fit Avengers best, with guys like this that have worked on Dead Space and Uncharted. This is sounding really good.
A lot of positive vibes around this one. This is good.
Yeah, real good news. Now, jumping from the good news to really sad news, Twisted Metal creator David Jaffe's latest project has been canceled, and major layoffs affect the studio.
Can I just say the news so far has been an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, we're just going all over the place,
anxiety
man.
around Anthem to there's all this optimism about this Avengers game, but now this studio's closed down. Like
Video games, man.
Emotionally, I can't. This is a lot for me to handle on a Wednesday lunchtime.
Widow Wednesday, it's getting real. David Jaffe's Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency game studio suffered a huge blow today following the cancellation of one of its major projects. The news was broken by studio head David Jaffe, friend of the show, on his personal Twitter. Jaffe tweeted, quote, "Wanted y'all to hear it from me before anyone else. We've had a project canceled and been forced to lay off the vast majority of the Bartlett Jones staff gaming division. More news to come, but for now, that's what's up. My heart's breaking for the amazingly talented crew that's out of work. Sad face." Bartlett Jones was responsible for Drawn to Death, the free-to-play arena shooter that took its visual inspiration from the frenzied doodles of high school students' notebook. While the game was visually and conceptually interesting, and Jaffe is no stranger to competitive games, it failed to excite critics or gamers. I think that game had, a lot of issues when it came to the whole, is it free-to-play, is it not free-to-play? We saw it at PSX for the first time, and then just kind of the amount of time between it being first shown and it coming out, I think was a little too long. And yeah, at the end of the day, it just failed to kind of really grab its niche because it was a niche game. But it's sad news. I mean, these guys do different types of things. Like they make really cool projects, and it's always sad to see people.
We don't know what this game was.
We don't know what they were working on. No, we do know it wasn't Twisted Metal because they don't know the Twisted Metal thing. And you just put recently, it was. I think Greg covered it on Games
It just
Daily.
goes to show, I mean, it's like even someone like David Jaffe, who's got such an incredible resume.
One of the names, right? Like he is one of the names in gaming on the development side that people are aware of.
Yeah, you would feel like he's one of those people out there who, if they come to a company and say, "Hey, give me some money, I've got a great idea for a new game," but like, yeah, back that guy, because look at the successes he's had in the past.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a struggle. It really does highlight like what a struggle. the world of kind of game development and creation really is, where even like what you would consider one of the top names are having the rug pulled out from under them. And who knows what the story actually is. So who was this being bankrolled by? It says like we've been forced to lay off the stuff. We've had a project canceled. It makes it sound like this was a decision that may have been made by like an exterior force, like whoever was funding
I don't know.
the development.
Mean, it might have just been with them, them just looking at the numbers and realizing where they were at, and it just not working out with the new project.
What a bummer. I wonder what he'll do next.
Yeah. Well, hard to with them. Next story. Sea of Thieves beta now available, but some players are experiencing issues. This comes from GameSpot. The Sea of Thieves closed beta has officially begun. The beta is going on now for select Xbox One and PC players, but it appears many are currently having issues accessing it. Like the Sea of Thieves technical alpha that took place back in December, the closed beta is only available to those who either joined the Sea of Thieves Insider program prior to December 1st, 2017, or pre-ordered the game. Players who fell into the latter camp received the beta automatically if they pre-ordered Sea of Thieves digitally, while those who reserved the title at retail had to redeem a code in order to install the beta. However, it appears many pre-purchasers are being met with a too early error message when they attempt to launch the beta. Developer Rare has addressed the problem on Twitter and says it's currently looking into a solution, though the studio didn't offer a precise timetable for when it expects the issue to be resolved. We're aware some players are getting a too early error when attempting to launch Sea of Thieves closed beta. We're currently all hands on deck investigating and will provide updates ASAP, the developer tweeted. We'll update the story with any further details Rare shares. Sea of Thieves is an open world co-op adventure in which players form pirate crews in search for treasure. The closed beta is currently scheduled to run until 12 a.m. on January 29th. Rather than featuring a portion of the full game, Rare says it crafted a tailored experience for the beta that offers a true taste of the pirate life. I know a lot of people have been writing in because we've been saying not too many people are excited about it, and people have been like, yeah, I know some people are. Not too many of them.
I did an IGN podcast a couple of weeks ago, and everyone on the panel was raving about it. It was like their number one. They were playing, I think, some version of a closed beta, and they're obsessed with it. It's like I haven't seen enough of it yet to figure out if it's something I'd be interested in. But there is excitement for it, for sure.
There's definitely excitement, and I don't want to rehash this too much because we've talked about it on the show a lot and on Gamescast, but I've got to play it at E3, and I do feel that given the right environment with the right people, it's a lot of fun. I got to play with all the kind of funny guys, and we were there with the developers kind of screaming pirate stuff at us and telling us what to do and crafting an experience that really felt like an E3 demo. It felt like watching those stupid Ubisoft E3 demos where they're playing Ghost Recon.
Everyone's pretending to have a great time.
Hey, take the shot. Hey, dude, I got you. Like, coming on your 6, and like no one really fucking
so
does that.
fake.
Yeah. The Sea of Thieves demo that we did,
it felt like that.
It was that because we had people around us screaming like, "Do this," and it felt great. I feel that a lot of the IGN guys had that same experience.
My version of that used to be like the old 1980s and 90s print ads and TV commercials where the whole family was crowded around there's like light coming out of the TV and the whole family's like, give me the controller, me next, me. That's not what it looks like when people get together to play video games.
Yeah.
But occasionally it is. That moment of magic is there.
And we experienced that with Sea of Thieves. How that's going to translate to, day-to-day gameplay, I'm not a believer in it, but I'm sure there's people out there, and I hope that this resonates with people. And Microsoft is making a great move with this Games Pass thing of making it free to not free, but if you have Game Pass, $10 a month to everybody, and that's going to really boost the player base, and I think that could give this game a real chance of success.
But how come it never goes smooth, Tim? These online rollouts. I still remember the World of Warcraft Thanksgiving weekend, the first weekend the original game came out, the servers were fucked. You were standing in line, like it was slow as shit. I kept getting disconnected. And ever since then, every big major online game I've played, no matter how much infrastructure or how many extra servers or there are people working around the clock, it never goes smooth. How come it never goes smooth?
I don't know. I guess it's just every game's different. So whatever success they found with a previous game doesn't apply to this one. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
It just seems to be like, because I've seen stories where big games like this get rolled out. It's like we estimated how much, like what the max capacity, like what the worst case scenario was in terms of like the server architecture we would need, and we tripled it. And it still went bad.
It's mind blowing. We've had this date for a long time. We knew it was coming, and then for it to come in the news of the day be, people are having problems and it's delayed.
Again, I know it's an early beta and that nothing's working right now. But anytime you present something to the public, right? And these are people that have paid. These people that have said, "I promise to buy it. I've already bought the game. I've reserved it at retail, or I bought it digitally." So these guys are already in, and the first impression is I can't get into the game. it kind of sucks.
It does. I mean, the good news is it is a beta, and hopefully this stuff will smooth out the problems so that when the game launches, we don't see them. Because I remember when Grand Theft Auto Online launched, that was a disaster and a half. You know, when Diablo 2 came out, that was a disaster.
I'm going to throw this one out to the
Double 3.
I'm going to throw this one out to the You're Wrong crowd.
Yes.
Can anyone think of like a major online dependent game release that came out in the last 10 years that was smooth out of the gate, no major problems? I honestly don't know if there's ever been
Halo
one.
3, all of them had issues.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, is there an example, or is this just what we expect? I used to my friend Logan Decker, who was one of the editors of PC Gamer after me, had a rule: never ever buy a game at launch. Because you just won't have a good, especially if it has any kind of online component, which they all do now. Some games where you're not even expected to go online, it still needs to check in online to authenticate or whatever, and there's problems with servers. And his rule, I think, has served me and a lot of other people well. Oftentimes with big games, wait for it to settle down, wait for them to get the kinks out, and then go in and have a good time. I don't want to be one of these day one guinea pigs that is waiting in server queues or whatever while they get the bugs out of the system.
I can't do it, man. I'm a guinea pig.
You just got to go in day one.
Man. I need it.
Even though you know there's going to be those frustrations.
I just get so antsy when I'm excited, when I'm looking forward to anything, movie, game. Like I just get so obsessed with it. I can't stop thinking.
You got to have it right away.
It's like when you're going on vacation when you were young and it's the night before and you just can't sleep because you're just like so excited to wake up and go.
Right.
It's kind of like that, or like Saturday morning cartoons when you're just like oh man, I'm only 8 hours away. If I fall asleep right now, I'll wake up and watch them, and then you can't fall asleep. That's how I feel.
Just one more sleep.
Releases. Yeah. Or like when I was waiting for the iPhone, I was just like, I was counting down the days. I'm like, I need this thing. I need this thing day one. I don't know. There's a problem with me, but hey.
Well, I think you're a big kid. That's not a problem.
I'm
That's
a big
great.
kid. That's
I love
all,
it.
That's all that it is. Speaking of being a big kid, this is really sad news. We didn't need to put this in the show, but I felt like it deserved a shout out. Toys R Us is closing up to 182 U.S. locations. This comes from Kotaku. It's going to be a little bit harder to be a Toys R Us kid in the U.S. soon, as the toy retailer puts plans in motion to close up to 182 locations across the country as part of its Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization plan. Court documents filed yesterday detail closure plans for the 182 locations across 40 states, a mixture of traditional Toys R Us stores, Babies R Us, combinations of both, referred to as side-by-sides, and outlet stores. While some of the targeted locations might remain open if more favorable property lease terms can be negotiated, the majority will see going out of business sales beginning early next month, closing completely by mid-April. In a letter distributed this morning to customers, Toys R Us chairman and CEO Dave Brandon said, quote, "The actions we are taking are necessary to give us the best chance to emerge from our bankruptcy proceedings as a more viable and competitive company that will provide the level of service and experience you should expect from a market leader." Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in September of last year. At that time, the company was given a 120-day deadline for rejecting store leases, but due to the upcoming holiday season, it was granted a deadline extension until April 16th, which explains the mid-April closing dates.
Do you know how many? They're closing 182. Do you know how many there are?
I was looking into it. There aren't that many overall, so 182 is a pretty big chunk of them. And looking at the list of all of them, it's anyone that is anywhere near us at all. And it's sad because, growing up, there was multiple Toys R Us around here. We had one over like directly in San Francisco, and then there was one in Daly City. And a huge part of my childhood was going to
Toys R Us.
It was me, my brother, and Kevin running around playing hide and seek and just being idiots. And there was something about just the store that was fun. It felt like Disneyland for kids, but it was just a store. And when it comes to video games, the reason I want to put in the show is Toys R Us is so intrinsically tied to a generation of gamers that grew up buying games because, in a pre-GameStop and EB Games world where those things were everywhere and took over everything, Toys R Us was where a lot of people bought games. Like there was Funkoland and there was always these, mom and pop shops, but Toys R Us was kind of the place to go to buy video games, and they had those slips where you just walk down the aisles.
Take it to the cashier.
And you would take it to the cashier and they'd go back and get the game. And that was part of what defined the culture of being a gamer, and it's like going to Toys R Us and looking at all of them and looking at the box art and just
kind of face pressed up against the glass,
just looking at everything. There was just the glass with seeing all the systems and the Virtual Boy and the demo kiosks and all of it. It's just that is, it's I know that is long gone. and I'm just being nostalgic, but it's sad to see something like Toys R Us go. And they had their kind of boom with the Toys to Life side of the video games for a while, and then you slowly saw that start to go on clearance and start to die out. But it's just sad to think of a generation growing up.
So that is mostly where you bought your games when you were a kid.
Yeah,
Toys R Us.
Yeah, for a long time. If it wasn't at garage sales and random little things like that, or like I said, the Funko Land. I would say through Super Nintendo, which was the first console that I had, to up through the Xbox generation. I bought my Xbox and Halo at Toys R Us.
Do people still go to Toys R Us to buy video games now that there are so many other options available?
I mean, obviously not.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
Right? I think that's it. It's like, video games were such a big market for Toys R Us. You can tell that by the amount of aisle space that they would give to them. And yeah, you just got to imagine with the things going digital, and then also with the rise of GameStop kind of buying all of the other game stores to be this kind of just superpower, and even them seeing their issues. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
it's sad. I mean, because obviously Toys R Us, it's different for me growing up in the UK. We didn't have them, but for many American kids, obviously was the toy store. My prediction, give it 10, 15 years, and you can add Toys R Us to the list with, Tower Records and Blockbuster and all the other things that went away.
I don't even think it'll take that long.
No?
Yeah, no. I mean, in the Bay Area, it already hit the point where Toys R Us, we would need to drive.
I don't even know where the closest one is.
To get to one.
Marin or something like that?
There's one in San Rafael that's being closed, and there's one down south a bit towards San Mateo. Not quite San Mateo, but down there.
The Amazon effect. They're just killing everyone.
Yeah. And it sucks, we're all complicit in this, but Amazon's awesome. There's nothing better than just fucking buying shit and it's showing up at your house and you having a bunch of cardboard boxes to get rid of.
It is. That's the thing. You can't be that sad about it, because if you loved it that much, you'd still be going there and buying the games and supporting them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's time for the official list of upcoming software across each and every platform as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily Show host each and every weekday. Out today, Wild Turkey Hunter on PlayStation 4.
Is that a drinking game or
I think it's a turkey hunting game. You go out there, shoot them turkeys.
That's a funny genre. Ever since the days of Cabela's and the whole they're terrible, right? They're mostly terrible games, but there's a market for them.
Is there? I don't get it. Obviously, someone must be buying if they keep making them. But
well, I don't know. Again, when I did the IGN podcast the other week, they had footage up on the wall of this Duck Dynasty game.
That's a big joke with them.
And
Marty,
but somebody made that. Clearly, there's enough of a market that somebody made that game.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I guess we live out here on our coastal. True. Elites that we are, we don't really know what's going on in the real America, where people want to shoot animals and things like that, and also when they can't shoot animals for real, want to pretend that they're doing it in a video game.
PlayStation 4, computer entertainment system, right? Huan Yan Sword: The Gate of Firmament is on Xbox One. Le Grand Legacy is coming out. I got a nice little email about this one. I'm going to read a little description. The nostalgic love letter to classic JRPGs from publisher Another Indie and developer Semisoft launches on PC today via Steam at 8 a.m. Pacific time. JRPG lovers can get their hands on Le Grand Legacy on Nintendo Switch in Q3 2018, with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One ports arriving in Q1 2019.
God, it really is the dog days of game releasing right now, isn't it? This time of year, right after the holidays. Games are coming out. But it's kind of with movies as well, January, February is not when you expect all the best stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff just getting dumped.
There's going to be this. We're going to start seeing it towards the end with Monster Hunter World and stuff, and Dragon Ball Fighters, and we're going to see a bit of an uptick
as we get closer towards spring.
Yeah. March is going to be
the
huge.
big games are coming.
This is why the Arges Adventure on PC and, like we said earlier, the Sea of Thieves closed beta on Xbox One and PC lasts from today until the 29th. Deal of the day. This comes from Kotaku. The Walking Dead is the series that put Telltale Games on the map, and you can play all 3 seasons, the 400 Days Anthology, and the Michonne-centric miniseries for an all-time low of $35 on your PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, complete with enhanced graphics. That is over on Amazon. And one, Gary Whitta.
I heard that game's good.
Yeah, I heard it's pretty good. Worked on a couple of
I have it on good authority that game's pretty good.
Now it's time for Reader Mail, brought to you by MeUndies, Andy Harmony. Let me tell you about MeUndies. You want to look good with your significant other this Valentine's Day? Of course you do. Then check out MeUndies Matching Pairs, a unique, fun gift for you and your Valentine. They're the perfect balance of comfortable fit and exciting prints. Don't spend another Valentine's Day giving the same old gift. Check out MeUndies.com and find the best match for your match. Whoever's writing the copy, they deserve a raise for sure. I've been wearing MeUndies every day for the last 365 days, and it changed my life. Probably a little bit more than that.
Wait, is this for real?
This is for real. I'm wearing them right now. They're fantastic. Have you tried these MeUndies, Gary?
No, I mean, I'm open-minded. I'll try anything.
MeUndies.com/games.
Okay.
It'll be the best Valentine's Day
Boxes,
gift you
briefs,
can
like,
give.
do they have a selection of everything?
They have a whole bunch of stuff. They have for him, for her. It's a great time. To get 20% off your matching pairs, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/games. That's MeUndies.com/games. Now, a lot of people out there might be thinking, hey, Tim, like you're talking a lot of game about these MeUndies. I take underwear very seriously.
As you should.
I'm very picky about it. I want it to be perfect. And this MeUndies, the most perfect underwear I've ever had on my body. Ever. So much that I'm like, I swear, I threw out the rest of my underwear and I'm like, I'm committing to this.
MeUndies.com all day long now.
Yeah. I want them I hope that they sponsor us forever. Because I want them to just send me underwear forever. MeUndies. They had something else here that I want to read because I really liked it. This will be the best Valentine's Day gift that you'll ever give. Start matching your bottom half to your better half.
Do they have like amusing designs and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They have different lines. So you can go and you can click into, there's just classic where it's just kind of block color, or there's pattern, or there's, just like the traditional stuff. But then they have like seasonal different kind of fun things where they'll have like guest artists come in. And like artists that you're familiar with, if you see their designs and stuff, you're like, oh, cool. Like they're all different designs that we've seen people do. And then there's other like just wacky stuff. So like I like the wacky stuff. It'll be like cheetah print, or like all over smileys, or like army men all over.
And I guess it is a popular thing to do it. You see a lot of stuff around Valentine's, like giving each other pants, pajamas, things like that.
So why not make them undies? And if you don't have a Valentine to give your MeUndies to, eHarmony is the product for you. If you're trying online dating, chances are you've run into lazy text messages, dead-end conversations, and random matches that don't turn into dates. eHarmony has helped over 1 million people find their perfect match. They're built to help you find lasting, meaningful relationships. It's not a shallow hookup site. eHarmony uses years and years of science, data, and psychological research to send you the right matches. There's plenty of hookup sites out there. This is not one of those. Right now, our listeners can get a free month with eHarmony when they sign up for a 3-month subscription. Enter code GAMES at checkout. We all at Kind of Funny are all booed up, so we do not need eHarmony. But my friend Jess does. So here's some of her experience. She says, the sign-up process was super easy. They asked questions like, what 4 words would your friends use to describe you, and how important super relationship traits are for you. They send you suggested matches in your email, and it feels a lot more manageable than endlessly swiping on some other dating apps. So you just do the work once, and then they send you options, and you're like, cool, I'm going to try this out. I want to try to find love. Who doesn't want to try to find love? I love love. Stop waiting. Start your journey to a satisfying, meaningful relationship. It can be fun to play around with online dating apps, but when you're ready to fall in love with somebody, have a meaningful relationship, there's one app that's built to bring you real love, eHarmony. Come see how eHarmony can change your life. Go to eHarmony.com and get started and enter code GAMES at checkout. That's eHarmony.com, code GAMES. It's read mail time. Ark says, hello, Tim and Gary. Can the gaming industry sustain a subscription-based future? Yesterday, you guys talked about how great the consumer benefits of Microsoft putting all its first-party games on Game Pass and how a good subscription-based future of games could be for consumers. But looking at the industry as a whole, devs are either making billions of dollars or having massive layoffs and closing down shortly after release. We've heard countless stories of how most devs don't feel secure in their career, and even Microsoft themselves have been actively canceling a lot of projects and closing down studios the last few years, despite their deep pockets. Is subscription-based gaming doomed to old games that stop making money or are microtransaction heavy? Or do you think the industry will implement more job security for the digital future?
What are we talking about when we talk about subscription-based gaming?
The Game Pass news. The Xbox Game Pass thing that came out yesterday, where going forward, all first-party Xbox games.
Yeah, so we were talking about that before the show. You do some quick and dirty math. It's a pretty amazing deal.
Mm-hmm.
If Microsoft put out 2 games, 2 $60 games each year, which is reasonable to presume, that basically is the price of your subscription, and everything else that comes with it would be gravy, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you're presenting here We won't know what's going to happen until we kind of see the adoption rate of this, how much money is made from this, how much revenue goes into it, where the gross is, and all of that, and how it kind of nets out with different developers. With Microsoft's first-party studios, I imagine they're going to benefit a lot more than some of the third parties will because of cuts and licensing fees and whatnot. But when we look at models that exist currently that are similar to this, like Netflix, this is much different than Netflix because video games cost a lot of money. Video games also retail for $60. Movies, even in theaters, do not retail for $60. We're looking at max, even with 3D and everything, maybe $20 a pop, right? The difference between this and Netflix is Netflix doesn't offer in theater like brand new movies of that caliber, right? This is essentially like if Netflix had the brand new Avengers day and date on Netflix.
Yeah, if they said like every month you're going to get like, we'll pick one first run, like you'll get Logan the same
movie.
day it's in, or Last Jedi or something, the same day it's in theaters.
Yeah,
I mean that sounds like crazy talk.
It's crazy, but
we may well end up there.
That's what Xbox is doing
because this. I mean, it's not just. I mean, I think Xbox are jumping on a bandwagon that is increasingly leaving the station here. Like Netflix obviously is a big part of it. Amazon Prime, Spotify, Apple Music. It's increasingly moving away, and I definitely see this in my own purchasing habits. I increasingly am kind of less and less buying things a la carte and just getting things as part of the subscription. Like, I can't remember the last time I bought like an album on iTunes or even bought a Blu-ray. Unless it's something I really, really want to see, I just wait for it to come along as part of the wave of all the stuff that I already kind of pay for monthly.
Yeah. So taking this and moving forward to address some of your questions here, when you look at Netflix, it wasn't a hit right out of the gate when it came to the streaming services, but over time and people understanding it, it's now commonplace where having Netflix is just is normal, right? Like
it's practically a utility.
People talk about Netflix the way they talk about internet or cable, right?
Right.
And where we see where Netflix is at now with their user base, there's more experimentation going on with Netflix than we've ever seen with TV. And when we see things like the movie Bright with the millions of dollars being put into making it, this is like real grand scale stuff that like we see in real.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about first run movies, Netflix actually made that move a long time ago, just with their own content.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Xbox can potentially do here. So in terms of job security and all that, and bigger projects coming, I think that if this is a hit, we're going to see a lot. There's going to be a lot more money coming in that will allow them to make new things to get more people to come in. And we've seen that with Netflix with the amount of original series they have, with the rise of stand-up comedy, which never would have had that type of boom, but people are watching. So there's Dave Chappelle came back.
I'm like the only person left that doesn't have his own comedy special on Netflix.
Exactly.
I should call him, I guess.
You should. There's
like,
so much
you
money
missed
there.
somebody.
Yeah.
Where's mine? Everyone else has one.
I'm Gary here. But I do think that if this takes off, it's going to be very, very huge. And I think that there will be a lot more games being made, both big and small and all over the place, because you can see it with the Netflix model.
Yeah, I got to say, after this, I had a trial for Xbox Game Pass a while ago, and I let it lapse because I didn't feel like there was enough there for me. But if they're adding, again, this is Microsoft's kind of like, not all the way the same, but similar to Netflix saying, well, we're going to create our own original content and put it in. It's not just like the getting other people's movies. We now create our own stuff and give it to you first run. This is, I guess, not entirely different in terms of Microsoft saying, look, you're not just getting back catalog stuff anymore. Here's like the new shit you're going to want anyway, and you get it as part of this deal. And like I said, the math on it is great. 2 games. All you got to do is, if they release 2 games, and you would have bought those 2 games anyway, that's your whole sub for the year. Yeah. And everything else, whatever you get, is free.
So that is an interesting segue into our next question here. Yesterday, I was talking to Andrea, and we were doing the napkin math, trying to figure out what makes it worth it. My boy Marko put a lot of work in here and did a lot of the math. There's a lot of words, a lot of numbers I'm about to throw at you, but I thought this was very interesting stuff in terms of the economics of the new Microsoft Xbox Game Pass. Marko says, so I've done some very rough number crunching regarding the Xbox Game Pass news. The sales numbers I've obtained are from VG Charts, and the estimated Xbox One units sold is an educated guess according to VG Charts. For the year 2017, Xbox has released 7 first-party titles. They are Forza Motorsport 7, Lucky's Tale, Halo Wars 2, ReCore, Zoo Tycoon, and 2 Kinect Rush games. The sales numbers are as follows. Forza at 820,000, Halo Wars 2 at 430,000, Lucky's Tale estimated 200K, ReCore 250K. I wasn't able to obtain numbers for Zoo Tycoon and the Kinect Rush games, but I think we can assume they would total to a fairly insignificant amount. The number of Xbox One units sold is estimated at 36 million. So this means that only a maximum of 5% of Xbox One owners purchased a Microsoft first-party title. Total sales generated by these games equals to 92,500,000. Now the interesting part. If 5% of Xbox One owners purchase the Game Pass at $10 per month, that equals to a staggering $240 million. What do these numbers mean? Only that if you base the value of an Xbox Game Pass membership solely on Microsoft first-party exclusives from the previous year, then there's really not much value to be had, as the price of the membership is exactly to the amount you would pay to purchase the only 2 games on that list that have any market appeal. Let's be honest, the only 2 games on that list that anyone played are Forza and Halo Wars. What's more interesting is the fact that 95% of people who own an Xbox did not purchase a Microsoft first-party title. This would lead me to the conclusion that most people who own an Xbox system do so for the purpose of playing third-party titles. The assumptions I made are also for new releases. Now comes the kicker. The vast catalog of older titles available to you with Game Pass, and that is where the true value lies. Personally, I do not see myself playing many old games, and I would not really make the most out of Game Pass. However, I can imagine there are a plethora of Xbox fans out there that would love to play and replay older titles. This service would benefit them the most. As for the players out there who are only likely to pick up the first-party title a year, or a first-party title a year, the service would not pay off. It is true that you would have the added value of vast back catalog of games. However, if you do not expect to play those games, then you're not getting any value from your investment. I hope these calculations are correct, and I hope it did not come off as a PlayStation fanboy trying to bash Microsoft, even though I am a PlayStation fanboy. I was just curious to delve a bit deeper into the numbers and see what the true value of the service was when slapped on a spreadsheet. My theorizing only holds true for the year 2017, however. If Microsoft have a stellar year of first-party titles, then I think all of my hypothesizing goes out the window. Either way, Game Pass is an exciting prospect, and I can only dream of the day that a similar service arrives for PlayStation in this great land down under. Still don't even have PlayStation Now over here. Anyway, hope my little piece isn't too much of an incoherent mess. It's 1 a.m. over here. Give me a break. Keep up the good work, guys. Marko. Thank you for all that, Marko. There's a lot to break down in there, but I think the takeaway is something that we've known for a while, in that Xbox One's first-party offering hasn't been stellar the last couple of years, specifically last year. Taking those numbers, though, and looking at it, kind of imagining what that could look like for a new Halo game, for a new Gears game, that's when it starts really getting interesting. And even looking at something like Sea of Thieves, I think there's more inherent interest in that being developed by Rare than there is for something like Lucky's Tale, right? And State of Decay 2, same there as well. And Crackdown 3, obviously. So even the 3 first-party Microsoft games we know of, I'd say are in the upper echelon of last year's list, if not the top of the list. Debatably, Halo Wars 2, and Forza, but looking at the sales numbers, not so much, and you can expect a Forza game this year as well anyways. Adding on whatever surprises we don't know about, whether it is a reboot of Perfect Dark or whatever it is, if there's a new Fable game, there's a lot to be had here, and I think that those numbers really start to make sense when you add on those kind of multipliers.
I think Microsoft has made the calculation, again, presumably looking at the Spotify's and Netflix and other, and even stuff like, AMC Movie Pass and these things now where you buy, you pay for a monthly thing and you go see as many movies as you want. The case, I think, is increasing to be made. There's more money to be made that way than there is just selling things off. Well, buy this game, now buy that game. And so it's a purely economic decision. If there's more money to be made this way, great. Because again, from the consumer perspective, maybe it's a win-win. More money for Microsoft to make more games and invest more in their hardware and software development. Hopefully, I'd like to think it seems like a better experience for gamers as well. I think the Netflixization of video games is not necessarily. Even as much as I get paralyzed doing it, it's nice to be able to go to your game collection or your movie collection and go, oh my god, look at this vast selection of stuff, including now, not just the kind of old dusty titles, but like something that just came out and was brand new,
day
I think
one.
is potentially really, really cool. I wonder if it will end up, if that Netflix effect, if this becomes like the way that we just do business now and the way that we buy games, if it's going to be harder to figure out like what games have been successful or not, because like, Netflix don't tell you. Like they'll say like, oh, Bright has been really successful for us, but they won't,
There's
don't have
no
like,
top charts.
they don't have like viewing figures or charts.
I mean, that's the most
have been
interesting
able to
thing
get
about
into the back
Netflix.
end and extrapolate that.
But never, it's not a science. And
Yeah,
like, that's the crazy
it's very
thing.
fuzzy, yeah.
There's no way you can look to see top 10 charts.
Here's the top 10 titles on Netflix this week. There's no official
Yeah,
numbers
everything's
for that.
curated by them. It's all algorithms that they want you to see.
Right. And so for people like us and for the gamers out there that are obsessed with sales figures and, was this game a hit or a flop, that is going to be harder to make sense of. And maybe that's a good thing, because like, is that what we should be thinking about and caring about all the time? Like, was this game a hit? Yeah, how much money did this, I know that as observers and pundits, it's part of the job to kind of analyze that stuff. But as a gamer, it's not what I'm interested in. I just want the good games to keep coming. Mm-hmm. I like it. I might do the Game Pass. I feel like it just got a substantially better.
I mean, does this
start right away
huge
as of now, 2018, or when does this
Yeah.
actually take effect?
Yeah, with Sea of Thieves.
I like it.
Yeah.
Because I was probably going to buy Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, and here you go. $10
right.
a month. Man.
Okay.
DeFlameKing says the OG Xbox Duke controller is coming back and is being rebuilt specifically for the Xbox One.
I love it. I
Of
love
course,
this news.
This will be in limited supply due to a small niche audience, but for fans of past glory days, this is another good push that is pro-consumer from Xbox. What are your thoughts on this wrecking ball of controller coming back? I agree with you that it is a good consumer move from Xbox. Once again, them doing another great thing for gamers, for niche markets, and for realizing that there's a large amount of people out there and making as many of them happy as possible is great. Fuck this controller. You're a crazy person. if you like it.
Again, this is exactly what Microsoft want. They know that this controller was infamous.
Yeah.
Right.
For all the fucking wrong reasons.
It has its piece in gaming history, and I think Albert Pinello was on here not long ago around the time of the Xbox One launch, talking about when they focus tested it. People in the focus groups really there was no sense that people didn't like this controller until they actually put it out into the wild. But the people internally and test groups were all happy with it. I personally I didn't understand with the backlash. I had an OG Xbox controller, and it is kind of like holding like a massive hamburger or something. Like it's this crazy weird shape. And I don't have particularly big hands, but like it always felt fine for me. If you put one in my hand right now, it's possible I'm going, oh my God, what was I thinking? I don't know.
Yeah,
but I remember
probably.
liking it.
The ergonomics of it were not in its
So
favor.
you flat out hated
I
it.
flat out hated it. And I'm a fan of bigger controllers, specifically big buttons. I always bitch about the Vita having way too small buttons, especially in comparison to the PSP that had like normal DualShock 2 size buttons. But the problem with the Xbox, the Duke, was it wasn't comfortable to hold. And the biggest issue I had was the configuration of the buttons being in a weird offset diamond shape
I remember that,
instead of a traditional diamond.
Yeah.
Why? And the buttons were like weird ovals.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. It's all coming back
Weird.
to me.
Such
and
a
that
weird
massive
decision.
jewel, that big Xbox jewel
That
in the
didn't do it.
middle.
It wasn't even a button. It was just there.
In the promotional artwork, I remember it lit up and it looked really cool, but in the end, it was just
And
a
it
piece of
didn't do
plastic.
it. Yeah, the original Xbox, there was a lot of weird choices made. The Duke was definitely one of them. The Controller S was awesome.
I remember when the S came out, I think, okay, I can see how people would be happy with this. And
Awesome
They're
is
they're obviously doing this in a
bit of
very
a
limited run,
overview.
and it's amazing to me they're doing it at all because it's so rare for me to find any. I'm pro Duke. I liked it, but whenever it comes up in conversation, I can never find anyone who agrees with me. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a member of a very, very, very small minority group here.
I do think it's cool that they're bringing it back because I love stuff like that. I love the weird
It's a bit of
little,
fun.
little niche stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely
What's
not
the
for
harm
me.
in it?
I will not be.
I'm going to check it out.
The Duke was the one when we had 3 S controllers and we had 1 Duke when we were playing Halo.
Nobody wanted
playing
the Duke.
Blood Gold capture the flag, and it was just like the guy we
gets
liked
stuck with
least
the
got
Duke?
stuck with the Duke. Sorry, Edmund. Let me see. I want to do one more. Oh, it was one I had for you. Here we go. ItsThatDave says, hey, Tim and Gary. So, Gary, what are your thoughts on Nintendo Labo? I know it just got announced right after your appearance last week, so I was curious your thoughts on it since you have a child. And did she seem interested in it? Also, you guys think that Nintendo will have some Labo announcements at their E3 showing, or will it be more of a let's show trailers during cartoons type of marketing thing since it's aimed specifically at kids? Love the show, and of course, you guys, as always, Dave.
Yeah, I was bummed that I missed it last week because if you remember the way the timing worked out, they announced it right after we wrapped the show last week, so we just missed I just missed the opportunity to comment on it. But I went home and I watched the videos, and I was like, you know, I love Nintendo, right? And like, God bless these guys, because as I've said before, I think that Microsoft and Sony, I'm glad they're both around, but there's almost nothing that's come out of Microsoft or Sony in the last 10 years that you couldn't just as easily have imagined coming from the other one. Anything that Microsoft did, Sony could make just as easily have done, because again, they're on very similar tracks. There's a lot of kind of copycat. You know, we've got an enhanced console, now we've got an enhanced console. We have a motion controller, we have a motion controller. And it's all very much, you know, there's not a lot of the differences exist on the margins. There's nothing fundamentally different between the two companies, I don't think. Nintendo is fundamentally different from the other two. It's so clear how different they are in terms of the hardware, the types of games, the way they position themselves, the kind of market they're trying to attract, their brand image. Everything is just so different. This, I felt like when I first saw it, I was like, really? Like, is this for real? Like, this is like so. Like, I feel like Nintendo out-Nintendo'd themselves in like how crazy they wanted to get. Nintendo. Nobody. And here's the thing. This is what I say this to Nintendo's credit. Who predicted this? No one. Not a single person. There was would have guessed
100-page Reset Era thread of people guessing what they were going to announce, knowing that it was a thing for kids.
You could have given me 1,000 guesses, and I wouldn't have got it. And so I don't yet know if this is going to be any good. And, you know, Michael Pachter and other people I know have come out against it saying, this is proof that you can just slap Nintendo on literally some cardboard and people will buy it. And maybe that's true. But it does look very, very ingenious and very innovative and, again, different. Just something different. Give me something different from what Microsoft and Sony would never have done this, right? It's inconceivable that they could have done this. It's almost hard to conceive that even Nintendo did it, as crazy as they are. But it looks really interesting. I love the fact that it brings kind of concepts of real-world engineering and construction into play. You know, like you're actually building stuff for real. I don't know how durable it's going to be. I think that might be an issue for kids who like to kind of destroy things.
But they did announce that you'll be able to download the schematics and stuff online so that you can put it on just any cardboard.
Right. But you still would have to buy the software that it's compatible with, right? So if something breaks, you can just easily, the piece of cardboard breaks, just
make a new one.
Chop up an Amazon box or something. But I know, in principle, I kind of love it. I don't know how it's going to work in execution. I'm sure we'll all be very keen to get our hands on it. I haven't shown it yet to my kid, but I mean, this is exactly the sort of thing that she loves. She loves to fold things and build things and make, you know, things out of stuff. And she loves Nintendo. So I feel like it is potentially absolute genius, or it could be another Wii U. Who knows?
We'll have to keep up with you and see.
What do you think?
I'm right there with you. Not for me. I'm so stoked Nintendo's doing it. I think that it is brilliant for the market that they're going after. There are millions of Switches out there. They need to treat the hardcore gamers the way that they have been, which is keep giving us the Nintendo first-party games that we love and new iterations and expanding on it, like. And revolutionizing them in ways that we saw with Odyssey and with Zelda, and we know they're going to continue doing that. But they also need to be Nintendo, and they also need to be toys. They need to make toys for kids, and to have that kind of magic. And you know, there's like going back to what I was talking about with Toys R Us. Like the magic for me growing up was going to Toys R Us and seeing the video game aisle, but then going to the Lego aisle. Those are the two things. There's something about building. There's something about creating that is just inherent.
There is something about the tactile nature of creating something for real, like when you do Lego, like just that kind of the feeling of like when a block connects and you feel like I've made something that cannot be replicated virtually in a screen. And so bringing some aspects of that into the real world, here's something you can actually fold and feel, like you bring like the sense of touch and that kind of tactile satisfaction into play. I think that's really, really cool. And again, a lot of the negative comments that I've seen are from kind of more serious type gamers. Try and find. I challenge you to find me a bunch of people under the age of 10 that looked at that and said that looks lame. I guarantee very hard to find people in the actual demographic that this is for. I feel like this is going to be a huge hit.
Yep, absolutely. In terms of the question asking about will we see it at E3? You never know with Nintendo, but with their marketing strategy in recent times, I kind of expect their E3 to be more focused on the core games, not necessarily hardcore games, but the core video games coming to the Switch. And I think that the way that they put this out, where it's just, here's a trailer, I think that's more what we'll see for this. I think they're doing a good job of having their directs, mini directs, presentations, showcases, nindies, whatever it is. Like having these different avenues to show off their different style games in different ways, I think is very important for Nintendo to set expectations correctly, because there is, in 2018, there is no other game company that creates the type of insane hype and craziness as Nintendo when it comes to gaming forums on a consistent basis. Because yes, Rockstar always, but Nintendo is doing it month after month.
I go back to my original point. When was the last time? And again, I love Microsoft, like Sony. They both do great work. They make great games. God bless both of them. When was the last time either of those companies genuinely surprised you? Where you were like, oh my God, I did not see that coming.
I mean, I feel like Sony often does in terms of new IP. Like I think Horizon would be a good example of a surprise of like, oh man, that was made by the guys that did Killzone.
But that's just another cool game. It's not something fundamentally different.
Yeah, it's not. And different isn't always good, as you see with the Wii U. And even with the Wii to an extent when it comes to the hardcore gamer's perspective, not so much the money made or its success rate. But yeah, no, your point stands. Like that's just not the game that they're in, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be. I mean, again, if this ends up being like the biggest selling toy of 2018, I guarantee you're going to see Microsoft and Sony coming up with some version of it, as they did with the motion controllers and as they've done with, you know, all kinds of other things that were, I think, demonstrated by Nintendo first. It can be viable, and someone goes, oh, we want a piece of that. Yeah. But it's often Nintendo they're often the first one out on the dance floor in terms of, here's something really different.
Yeah.
And I like it. It feels like it's minimal risk. I mean, like, a lot of this is just cardboard.
It's cardboard, man. Good Lord, Nintendo. Now it's time for Squad Up. Dean from Sacramento says, "G'day, Tim and Gary. I'm normally a PS4 player, but I'm cannonballing into the Sea of Thieves open beta on my Xbox One and don't have many friends to play with on the system. Given that this game is at its best working with a crew of scallywags, I'm in need of some fellow scurvy dogs to hunt for treasure, sink some ships, and share some grog with. Thanks for all the great kind of funny content each and every weekday. Gamertag is Lumberjack. The E is a 3 in Lumberjack. Go friend him. Go do some private stuff. Now it's time for one of them rotating segments. This trophy can go fuck itself. D. Pavanine says, I as of submission for this trophy can go fuck itself.
Is this a thing? This is a segment? This trophy can
every
go fuck
once
itself?
in a while. If someone submits it, we use them.
Just like really difficult ass trophies.
Bullshit trophies. Technically, a double submission. There are 2 trophies on Gran Turismo Sport that require you to take a photo in Scapes, which is basically photo mode, on a specific track with a specific car. These aren't hard trophies. They took me a few minutes to get, but getting it wasn't an enjoyable experience. It wasn't a test of skill or endurance. It was just a chore. Trophies like this are stupid. Remember that one trophy from the Ratchet & Clank remake where you had to stand in front of a certain door while disguised as Captain Quark and the trophy popped? What the fuck was that? All trophies should be a test of skill, endurance, or dedication, not a matter of sinking time into an arbitrary, meaningless task that doesn't test you at all. Even trophies that require grinding require some level of skill and perseverance. Anyway, love the show. Keep clucking that chicken.
I agree with the guy, and it's part of the ongoing beef that I have with Greg, you know, in his endless, insatiable search for trophies, is that you often spend a lot of time, whether it be achievements or trophies or whatever, you spend a lot of time doing stuff that's not that fun, but you do it just because you want the trophy to pop.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that years into achievements being and trophies being up, they just are a part of game design now, right? Again, Microsoft and Sony both mandate them. You have to put them in the game. I think there are some examples where they're integrated very well. There are others, like the ones that this guy was just talking about, that feel like busy work. They're not fun, but you want the trophy, but you really don't want to do it. It really is literally, he describes it very well when he calls it a chore. Like, it's something you don't want to do. You just want the end result. Mm-hmm. I wish that people spent just a little more time in their game design, thinking about how to elegantly and inventively and in a fun way integrate trophies so that you feel the reward of getting the trophy, but you didn't feel like you wasted a bunch of fucking time getting it. Like, it was actually fun getting it. It should be about the journey, not the destination.
I think there's a difference between these two, because the Ratchet & Clank one, that sounds stupid. That just sounds like a waste of time. The Gran Turismo ones, while not fun, I understand the idea behind it, where they want you to play all the different modes. This is getting you to play photo mode when you might not have
see, that's if it's encouraging you to try things that you might not have tried, that's fine. As long as those things are fun.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like this isn't fun, but I do think that the reason behind it, I can get behind, because it is them trying to be like, hey,
check this out.
Here's
Check
all
this
the different
part out.
things
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
game. So there's that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for You're Wrong. You can go to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong to let us know what we get wrong during the show.
I remember when the internet shat the bed last week and we couldn't even pull up the You're Wrongs. What do you got?
Let's see. Awesome-tastic points out some semantics that we messed up here. Gary asked Tim if Sean SK came from Visceral, and Tim seemingly just said yeah and nodded. He actually came from Naughty Dog and made The Lost Legacy. So it was Barry. It was the other guy, Barry. That was from
good.
Visceral.
Good clarification.
Barry is the refugee from
Got it. Good.
Visceral.
That's exactly what You're Wrong is for.
Yeah,
that kind of correction.
PD0000 says, Rare tweeted the following about an hour ago. Good news for those currently experiencing the too early error. A fix will be rolled out for you in the next few hours. We'll let you know when this goes live. Thanks for hanging in there, Pirates. Sea of Thieves has been the top game on Twitch for the past couple hours, topping out at around 205,000 viewers.
Have you played it?
I did. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of it?
I was telling you earlier. It's fun with when we had the group all doing it. It felt like
right.
E3 demo. But I don't know.
You're not sure if it's going to stick yet?
About it. Bronco Rock says, Tim, you said that Toys R Us was a Disneyland for kids. Hate to tell you, but Disneyland's already for kids. Hey, fuck you and everything you stand for, Bronco Rock, okay? Disneyland is for everybody. It's where happiness lives, and I want to live there because I want to be happy.
I flagged that at the time, but I didn't want to pull you up on it. I took it as to say, like, it's like Disneyland for kids, as opposed to, like, if you're a kid, it's like going to Disneyland, as opposed to,
Yeah, you know what?
If not for kids, who is Disneyland for?
Disneyland's for everybody, okay? And so is Toys R Us.
Disneyland and Toys R Us are both for everyone, kids of all ages.
Matt of Doom says, to answer Gary's question on successful online launch, the two I have to give credit to are Destiny 1 and 2. From what I remember, the problems to connect to the servers were minimal, and I personally didn't have any issues on day one.
Okay.
That is interesting. There was problems with the game.
People didn't like the game, but at least you could get on it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for.
C. Britta says, it was asked how many Toys R Us stores. There are a total of 880, so this equates to 1/5.
They're closing about, yeah.
Overwatch is another example, says Greg.
Overwatch was smooth out of the gate. Yeah, that was I remember I played that at launch and that was fine. Maybe we're getting better at that stuff. The days of waiting in endless server queues are maybe not as bad as they used to be.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's a dead air, Tim.
Is it? We're good. We nailed the show. Congrats, Gary.
Are we good? You got nothing else?
No.
Okay. You want to call it?
I want to call it.
What are you playing right now?
I am playing Shadow of the Colossus.
The remake, the remaster?
4, and it is.
I got to get it.
It's a damn good time.
It's on my list.
It's a damn. Did you love the original?
Well, so I'm going to gaming confessions, shameful gaming confessions. I've never played it. I've always loved the idea of it when it first came out on PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And then I actually bought it when they remastered it for PS3. As I remember, didn't it come as like a double pack with with Eco? Yeah, you got both, and I never took the wrapper off. I bought it with the best intentions.
You're gonna have a real good time. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Yes.
The controls.
Yes.
Push through them. Just push through them. Gary.
They're not great.
It's gonna be worth it. The game is so good.
Has it always been that way with the controls?
It's always been that way. They modernized the controls. Didn't work fully.
I feel like my sad lapse in playing Shadow of the Colossus over the years is going to pay off now, because I get to play like the shiniest version of it imaginable.
Yeah, but it's compared to a lot of the other games out now. It's really, I'm comparing it to Breath of the Wild, the way Breath of the Wild controls, and it's a similar style game.
Yeah.
Shadow feels really rough. It gets very frustrating when the character doesn't move, the horse doesn't move the way I want it to. Having said that, I'm halfway through the remake, and God, all I'm thinking about right now is going home and playing it. It is such a special game.
That. I love that when a game gets its claws into you so much that when you're not playing it, you're still thinking about, like, when can I play it?
All right, let's stop the show so I can go home and play. Yeah, I love you so much. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, I love you.